Week 12 is in the books. We saw some upsets that are going to shake up conference races, the college football playoff rankings, our own rankings, which we'll talk about later on in the episode. Also, I have come this episode to eat some crow and say some nice words about a couple of teams and programs that I have been very, very critical of. Again, programming note, Tuesday night, I'm guessing around 8:45 Eastern, after the first game of the Champions Classic. That's how they always kind of have done it in the past. So that's what we're assuming they're going to do Tuesday night for the college football playoff rankings. We're going to go live. We're going to watch them with you. We'll be on our YouTube channel. We'll be on X. So tune in. We'll also put out audio on Apple and Spotify the next morning. So if you miss it live, you can tune in on Wednesday morning to our reaction to the latest rankings, which we're getting ever so closer to, Selection Sunday here. So set your reminders, click the notification bell right now on YouTube, click follow on Apple and Spotify right now to make sure you get those automatic downloads and notifications. This is Always Talking Ball. Tyler Nohe, Lance Barton. Real quick before we get started, as always, make sure you like and subscribe on whatever platform you're tuning in on. Make sure you're following us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. And our weekly episode is brought to you by FrostBuddy. FrostBuddy.com/ATB is the place to go. They are going to have some killer Black Friday deals here in a couple weeks. I don't know why some people are doing like Black Friday week deals. Like they're calling it Black Friday week now. Like, what are we doing?
Dude, they've already got Black Friday sales now. It's like they got up to like 50% off on stuff. I've actually been sending a couple of the Frost buddies to I know that, guys that are fans of whatever team. I've been sending them out. And so I think that, I think Frost Buddy is going to get some business, man, here over the holidays. And as they should, because again, I don't know where you can go and find a can cooler that literally can hold a slim can, a regular 12-ounce can, a tall boy can, a beer bottle, the whole 9 yards, man, and keep all your drinks cold. Or if it's a drink you want to keep hot, you can keep it hot as well. So, yeah, man, frostbuddy.com/ATB. Go check it out.
All right, let's get to it. Georgia continues its ownership of Texas, 35-10 in Athens. And this is one of the teams that I talked about in the intro of meeting some crow. I've been critical of the Georgia Bulldogs for a long time, and they just haven't looked like themselves. That was as impressive as I have seen them look since 2023.
Yeah, I agree.
They just 128 yards rushing against the defense that only gave up 78 rushing yards per game. Gunnar Stockton was really impressive. The defense was absolutely stout. Sark and Texas have played Georgia 3 times now in the past 13 months, and they have 83 rushing yards. Just an overall dominant performance by Georgia.
Man, is there a team, hot take, is there a team in the top 12, 15 that's improved more from earlier this year to now than the Georgia Bulldogs?
If there is, I can't think of one.
Yeah, they look like a national championship level team right now.
They do.
And that staff.
I was trying to think of last night during that game. Obviously, we'd just seen Alabama go down, so I'm like, all right, who's the class of the SEC this year? It's like, is there that team? And
outside of A&M,
yeah.
But again, A&M hasn't played any of the other top teams in the SEC.
Exactly.
So it's just, again, we're not taking anything away from the Aggies. Two things can be true. They can be one of the best teams in college football, and they could also be playing a conference schedule. Again, dude, just look at the conference schedule. We're not making fun of A&M by saying that, or we're not saying they suck because they have, but literally they haven't played Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, any of those teams that are up there near the top of the SEC right now. And all these other teams have played them. So, but no, man, right now, let's just start there. Gunnar Stockton, total command of the offense, complete and total command. Dude is an absolute warrior, just tough as nails as well. Not going to make a bunch of mistakes, making big-time throws when he needs to make big-time throws. There's weapons on the outside for Georgia. I talked about this in the breakdown of this Texas game, man. I don't know. What is Georgia's weakness on offense right now, dude? Bobo's been in his bag. That would be what Georgia fans, I think, would say that their weakness is Mike Bobo up until the last couple of weeks. I think that the heat on him has kind of been taken off. because of how well they play. But we know how that works. The moment
Mhm.
they go play Georgia Tech and don't have a good offensive game, they'll be right back on Bobo again.
Yep.
But right now, Georgia can run the football with multiple backs. They're protecting Gunnar Stockton on a consistent basis. Stockton is really good in the QB run game and the QB power game as well. He's not turning the football over. They've got multiple tight ends. They're as good as anybody in the country that are an absolute weapon and a threat against any defense that they play and create mismatches. And then they've got weapons on the outside that are just as, again, we talked about them before the year. It's funny saying this because it's Georgia that we're talking about, but they sneakily had one of the best collection of skill position players in all of college football going into the year. And people just don't think of Georgia like that, but they do. Like
Yeah,
Kobe Young
no.
didn't even play last night, dude, and they still have weapons. Like Noah Thomas stepped up in his absence. Zachariah Branch is making plays for them at all in special teams and on offense.
Yeah,
You know,
outside of A&M, they were the team that, like, made the upgrades to their wide
mhm,
receiver core the
yep,
most,
mhm,
for sure. So,
mhm.
obviously that, that paid off last night for sure.
Yep. And they've just improved, man. Defensively, they've improved. Their problem going into this last game was everybody talked about they couldn't get pressure on the quarterback. They got pressure on the quarterback last night in that game. They affected Arch Manning and affected the Texas offense. They were, do they look like okay, I'm gonna get the saying in here. They looked like the mean machine in red and black last night. They really did.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
were,
Arch didn't look that bad, but again, we said it in the preview. We were
I thought
worried
he
about
played
that
fine.
Texas offensive line.
Yeah, I thought Arch played fine. Like
Yeah,
I didn't walk away from that game going, "Oh, Arch Manning sucks," and that's the reason why they lost that game. Now Georgia's just better, man. They're
yeah.
just more physical, faster, stronger, tougher, better offensively all the way around. Defensively, just again, they don't have the Anthony Hill Juniors, by the way. What a star, bro. That interception. Whew.
Yeah. Kept him in the
Unbelievable.
game.
Yeah, it did. Uh they don't have like well, actually they do. CJ Allen that went down with an injury. I hope he's okay, by the way. That guy's a stud. But outside of CJ Allen, like they don't really, yeah, they've got a bunch of 4 and 5 star players. Obviously, it's Georgia. Like when you think of Georgia's defense, like the casual fan or like even us, like the sickos that watch all of these games, like I don't walk away watching Georgia games just thinking of like, oh yeah, like Colin Simmons from Texas, like Anthony Hill Jr. Texas. Like CJ Allen is that, but Raylan Wilson and other guys for Georgia are stepping up and collectively as a defense, man, they're just dude, you know how Kirby is too as a coach. You got to think, man, how much he loves this team, the way that they've improved from the beginning of the year. It's obviously they're coachable. Uh, they're not having a bunch of like undisciplined issues overall as a team throughout the, whatever. So yeah, man, Georgia's impressive right now. And like you said, you put I would task all of you that's listening to this or watching this to go check out on Instagram or TikTok the video that Tyler posted, the Tom Brady meme about Georgia and Texas. That's all I'll say. It's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, Georgia is that to Texas right now. And maybe it was Cole that sent it or you that sent it last night in our group text that somebody tweeted out that Georgia is to Texas what Alabama is to Georgia
Yep.
right now. And so far, that's the case. Outscored Texas 21-zip, bro, in the fourth quarter. They showed Texas on the sidelines. Arch Manning and Michael Taft were in a giant circle of the entire Texas team. And they were leading in like a spirited, like firing you up because the game was 14-10 because of that Anthony Hill interception. Texas scored to make it 14-10. Like you thought that the Horns were about to make it a game. We're about to have a classic Georgia, Texas, two big brands going to just toe to toe in the fourth quarter in Athens at night. Georgia said, nah, and
Onside
just
kick.
absolutely knocked them out in the fourth quarter. Just
Yeah, that was
knocked them out 21-zip.
I mean, Georgia went right down the field, and honestly, they did that all night. Like, that's
Yeah.
a solid front seven, and a really solid defense altogether for
Yeah.
Texas. I know I joke, about the vaunted Texas D and all that stuff, but and they pushed them around all night, go up 21-10. Kirby makes the call to do an onside kick. He doesn't want them to get the ball back and try to, make it a close game. I think he was just feeling it. And I mean, he felt his offense could do whatever they wanted. They were balanced. Bubba was in his bag. Like, it was just an all around perfect storm last night for the Bulldogs. So they're in good shape. They're done with SEC play. They're 7-1. We're going to obviously get into some scenarios here with SEC. They've still got a shot. Like it's actually, no matter what happens this upcoming week, nothing can even be decided. No spot can be decided in the SEC championship game until the final weekend, which is what Greg Sankey wants. He wants that, tension and that drama going into the final weekend, which is it's really, really good. What we do know is Texas is out.
Yeah, they're done.
They've got 2 losses in the conference, so they don't have any hopes of making the SEC championship game. And we talked about it last week, and I gave you some scenarios like, if they lose this game 24-21, or if they lose it 27-10, 27-10 ended up being closer. It was actually worse than that. Barring some just absolute throttling of Texas A&M in, that rivalry game after Thanksgiving, it looks like Texas is going to be left out of the college football playoff this year.
Yeah, they would need at this point, they would have to have just absolute chaos between now and then. Like every team that currently has 2 losses would need to lose again. Like the Utahs would need to lose again. The Miamis would need to lose again. I'm just trying to think like other SEC teams would need to lose again.
And even then they would be stacking up
Yeah.
against all those other 3-loss
Yeah.
teams. Like, that's, and I don't know about Texas. I mean, we haven't really known about them all year. They've kind of tried to show us who they were multiple times. And they played pretty well the past couple weeks, and we thought they'd turn it around, and obviously you go to Athens and plans change. So it just, I mean, it's got to be. It's got to be. I know it's a discussion point in Austin, but it's got to be a discussion point for us and all the national shows like Sark and him going up against top 5 opponents. Right? I mean, has yet to win a game against Kalen DeBoer or Ryan Day or Kirby Smart. And there's other coaches around the country who have been let go of their jobs for their performances in top 5 games, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I don't think you're saying that Sark needs to be let go. Your point is that everybody has that energy
Keep
against
that
those.
same energy.
Yeah. Everybody has that energy against
Yeah.
those coaches. And the national narrative against those coaches are that they can't win big games and that every time they lose a game, it's like, when is so and so going to fire him? And that doesn't seem to be the case at Texas. And I think everything's got to do with Texas has been they're the only team in college football. Obviously, it's not going to be the case this year. But they're the only team in college football that went to back-to-back semifinals and whatnot. But yeah, like with the roster that they've built there, with the staff he's built there, with the NIL, just all the commitment that there is to football, obviously at the University of Texas, that uh, eventually, man, the Horns are going to have to win some of these big games because last year they made the SEC championship. Who did they beat in the regular season? Who did they beat in the regular season last year that was like a just massive big time win against a major big time ranked opponent?
A&M. I mean, that would have
A&M.
been their, yeah.
A&M. That was it. Like that was it. That was the game. And the year before, they went on the road and beat Alabama, Nick Saban, and Tuscaloosa. Outside of that one game, and I'll give them. I'm gonna give it to them that A&M game last year. That's a rivalry game. They went on the road. We saw what that atmosphere was like in that game and in that moment, and they took care of business. But outside of that, man, yeah, I mean they really haven't beat one of those top tiered teams that have the same type of talent that they've got going toe to toe. So that's something that Sark's going to have to eventually answer for. That will start being the conversation. If you're even mentioning it, it's going to start being mentioned more
Yeah.
going forward. But yeah, man, Georgia at this point, I know we'll talk about it more, but I mean they're in the college football playoff now. But at this point, it's they're either going to have a first round bye or they're going to be the 5 seed at this point. Well, I say that. I guess if they lose to Georgia Tech, they could drop a little further and they can lose to Georgia Tech. So never mind. There still are some things that can happen for the dog. They're in the playoff 100%, but it's a matter of are they going to have a first round bye? Are they going to be that 5 seed? Or are they going to drop somewhere between 8 and 9 at this point?
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit later in the show. We'll talk about CFP locks, like barring historic upsets, and a historic upset would be Charlotte beating Georgia this week. Barring something like that, yes, that's why we're calling them
Yeah.
locks. We don't think that's going to happen. They're 42-point favorites right now. So,
Yeah.
um, all right. So, if we want to talk about ownership, um, we got to get it out of the way,
Brent
man.
Venables owns Kalen DeBoer right now. I'll say it for you. Brent
Brent,
Venables owns Kalen DeBoer right now. 2-0. Offensively, Alabama 2 years in a row. I mean, offensively, actually, Alabama did put up some yards and stuff yesterday, but 2 years in a row, Brent Venables and Oklahoma have beaten Alabama in the month of November, when just about everything's on the line. So,
yeah. Oklahoma they're winning games in which they're getting dominated in the box score, which is like, that much more impressive. We talked about their first 4 games and their turnovers. Like, I think they had only caused like 4 turnovers in the first 4 games. Like, they were one of the worst in the country at forcing turnovers. Now they're just coming in droves, man. The
yep,
last 2 weeks against Tennessee and Alabama, both on the road, both in hostile environments, and to go in there to get that done, being outgained by Tennessee 456 to 351, and being outgained by Alabama 406 to 212, because you got 2 defensive touchdowns. All right, you won that game by 6 at Tennessee, and you won this game by 2. And again, like they're the classic case of like, we're just not asking our offense to do a ton, and like that offense doesn't have to do a ton when you've got Tate Sandell, kicking 55 yarders. It's like NFL. It's
NFL
like
kicker.
you get to the 35 to 40 yard line. That's all you really need to do.
Yep,
And then you got that defense to lean on.
yep,
It's impressive what Venables has been able to do, considering that offensive line starting 3 freshmen, haven't been able to run the ball. Mateer's been injured for half the year. Our Mason Thomas was out last week or this past week, and we talked about him like getting replaced by, I think last name is Wine.
yeah.
And
The exciting white from the state of Tennessee.
yeah, I mean,
That is,
he forced that fumble
yeah.
last night. Like, so they've just been able to lean on that defense, and it's really impressive. I know we thought, I think their win total is 6.5, 7.5, and we're like, we think everyone's picking Oklahoma to bounce back and have a really good year. John Mateer, all that stuff. And yeah, the offense has been better than it was last year. It was pretty atrocious last year, but it hasn't been like some on fire, like Wazoo type Ben Arbuckle offense. They've leaned on that defense, and now they're in like really good shape to make the
Yep.
college football playoff. I think people expected Oklahoma to be improved, but not that improved.
Yeah, I mean, again, you won't find back to back games two more impressive wins than going on the road to two places. Like I said, Tennessee, up to that loss when they lost to Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago, Tennessee had lost 2 home games in the last like 4 years, and they were both to the team named Georgia. And so they don't lose in Knoxville. And Oklahoma beat them at night in the dark mode blackout
Mhm.
deal that Tennessee does that they're pretty much unbeatable in. They took it to Tennessee there in that spot. Tennessee made mistakes, like you said, all those turnovers and whatnot. Oklahoma didn't make mistakes. When Tennessee made mistakes, Oklahoma made them pay. Fast forward 2 weeks later, they go to Tuscaloosa, who I believe Alabama had the nation's longest home winning streak up to that point. Kalen DeBoer had
17,
not lost a game in Tuscaloosa. I
17
think
game home winning streak.
I think the last home game that Alabama had lost was to Texas
Probably, yeah.
a few years ago. That game I mentioned a minute ago with Sark in that group. And so again, Alabama doesn't really lose at home, and they've played some really good teams and highly ranked teams at home over that time span. And Oklahoma goes into Tuscaloosa in we're going to return the favor, payback, revenge, all that talk, including me, that said all of that, and everything to play for Alabama. And Oklahoma just doesn't make mistakes. Alabama does. Oklahoma forced a couple of those mistakes. The interception that Simpson threw, it was a bad throw, yes. But the pressure on that delayed blitz right through the A gap, right into Simpson's face, is what caused that turnover, caused
What
that pick.
what side of the offensive line was that?
Right side. Yeah, they're awful.
How many times did I text you that yesterday? Right side, dot, 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 dot,
Well,
dot.
how many weeks in a row have you texted me
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's constant. And then of course I can't remember his name. I'm just gonna call him 44. Looks like an
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like an old school, like neck roll, like type. I mean, you see that guy coming, you know that guy means business. He's a football
Mhm.
player. He wreaked havoc against Tennessee, and he did it against Bama. The blind side calls it gets 5 games in a row now where Ty Simpson has had a lost fumble. But that one, I mean, I know, man, you lose a fumble, like you got nobody to blame but yourself. But dude, when you're just standing there in the pocket and you got a guy coming on your blind side at
Yeah,
full speed like that, 250 plus pounds like that dude is, and just decleats you, it's kind of hard to hold on to the ball then, man. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but
sure.
like I mean, that's hard to hold on to the ball there, dude.
I will say I did watch that replay, and there's been obviously every time you lose, there's criticisms of Ty Simpson and whoever the quarterback is that loses for whatever team. But I watched that and I was trying to back him yesterday, and he probably could have got rid of that ball a little bit sooner. And that's just when you have, I mean, more playing time you get, the more experience
Yeah.
you are. He's still like a first year starter. You got to have that internal clock.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, dude, it's just simple, man. Yesterday's game and that loss. No, it's not really. It's not trying to like overcomplicate this. Alabama made mistakes. Oklahoma didn't.
Yeah, 3 turnovers
And
to 0.
3 turnovers to 0 and the missed field goal.
Yeah,
And don't even get me started on that goofy ass kicker that acted that way. Again, I'm serious. If I wish one of like Alabama's defensive linemen or offensive linemen would have seen that happen and give that dude a swirly in the locker room at halftime, or something. Yeah, like what a embarrassment that dude was Talty that he was in that moment. And the fact that the cameras were focused in on his face too on national television for
he was
that
heated.
moment, yeah, he's going to get to see that all over, and I'm sure the coaches are going to have a conversation with him about that. But
Yeah.
the missed field goal, uh,
I'm still confused as what he was upset about. Like the holder did everything he possibly could with that high snap, and he got it down, and it was fine.
he's literally screaming at the long snapper. Did you see how? Like you could read his lips, plain as day. You see how high that snap was? Did you see how high that snap was? That's what he said, back to back
Maybe
times.
he was not yelling at the long snapper, maybe or at the holder. Maybe he was directing his frustration towards him at the long snapper.
Oh, no, he was yelling at the long snapper. The long
Oh,
snapper
I
was the
didn't
one
even
he
see
was
that.
yelling at.
I saw I saw what I thought was a holder, but yeah.
No, it was the long snapper he was
Okay.
yelling at, and the long snapper just acted like he didn't hear anything he said and just kept going to the locker room. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish he'd have yanked his face mask and, pulled him down by his yeah, anyway. Uh, but the mistakes, Simpson was not sharp. He just wasn't. I mean, again, he still had built up some yards and threw for a lot of yards. In that offense, in that style of offense that Alabama plays, he's gonna have yard. He's gonna put up stats. But I mean, he missed so many, man, in that game, just uncharacteristically. Like normally, he's accurate as can be on on when people are wide open. That one he sailed over Jeremy Bernard's
Yeah.
head.
10
I mean,
yards over his head.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't even close. He had another one to Jeremy Bernard on an out route that just he sailed it out of bounds,
I
just
think that
not even
first one
close.
McElroy was talking about, he's like, usually you see like, their feet aren't set, but his feet were fine. And then I don't know if
Yep.
the ball just slipped out of his hands or what, but it was
McElroy said
bad.
something about the nose of the ball, the way that it came out of his hand, but it just immediately you knew it was going to sail
Yeah.
on him. Just strange. And you know, Ryan Williams once again makes mistakes, not making plays. Running game. I mean, Daniel Hill gave him
Yeah.
better minutes than what Jam Miller had up to that point during the season. Uh, it just, I mean, man, at this point, I don't know how many times we have to say this. Like you said, something about Texas has shown you what they are, and eventually, Alabama is who they are offensively, meaning that they're not an explosive offense down the field
Yeah.
because Ty is like 2 for 15 on the year and deep passes beyond 30 yards. The offensive line can't protect long enough consistently for Alabama to even take those shot plays. They can't run the football. So they are a short passing, ball control offense that they we how many times have I said this during this year, Tyler, that if they don't score on these possessions, that those possessions get heightened even more because they're not explosive. They put so much pressure on the defense and they put so much pressure on themselves on the offense that if you do make mistakes, they are heightened. You better be efficient. And up to this point, Alabama had been efficient up to this
Well,
point.
take their final drive, for instance. What
Yes,
time did they
that's
get
a
the
great
ball back
example.
with? I mean, 6, 7, maybe 8 minutes left, and then and
Just
I
run the whole
know
clock out.
they had to go 90 yards to get a touchdown, but they had to go, you know, 45, 50 yards to have a field goal attempt, right?
Yep.
And again, I mean, I almost it got the third down immediately, like 3rd and long, and they got the first down by like a yard, and I'm like, man, you almost like think like it would have been better had they just not gotten it there and punted it back to Oklahoma and maybe tried to force a turnover or something and then get the ball back because they're just taking their time. And I know, like, I think like maybe they think that can turn it on when it gets under 2 minutes and they can run like a quick offense, 2-minute offense, but they haven't shown us that they can just march it down the field like immediately when they absolutely need to. They're just more of a methodical drive the ball down the field offense. And
At the end of the first half, they've done it a couple of times this year. They did it against LSU, where they run a actual hurry up 2-minute offense and they get down the field and they score quick. I
yeah,
don't know why they don't do that at the end of games. I'm gonna give you the South Carolina game, perfect example. Down 8 points with like 5 minutes to go, and they
yeah.
ran almost the whole clock out and scored, and they got the 2-point conversion.
But you
But again,
said had they not scored on that drive, they would have been. I mean, the game would have been over. Basically.
correct.
Yeah,
Correct. So, like, they got by with it then. Nobody talked about it much afterwards besides me and you and Freddie in the group text, that night. They escaped with it that night. They did not, in this one against a
yeah,
better defense.
yep.
So, Alabama has now very simple. They have now taken a gift and wrapped a bow on it and just handed it to their bitter arch rival, the Auburn Tigers, who have had nothing but misery all year long. And now Auburn gets to sit there with the opportunity to do something that they would probably rather do than even go win. I think if you ask a lot of Auburn fans, you can win 8 or 9 games this year, or you can go 6-6 and ruin Alabama's playoff chances. What would you rather do? I
Yeah.
think they would answer that second one.
Yeah, I think
They
we
have
all
an
know how
opportunity now to
I
ruin
think we all
Alabama's season.
I think we all know how this is gonna end, right? I mean,
I don't know, man. I'm not gonna say that yet. I'm not gonna say that yet. But like it is, I think we know how this is gonna go as far as this is just I don't care what the line is. The old saying, throw the records out in some of these games and whatnot. This is an absolute throw the records out. Throw everything that's happened between the first 10 to 11 games of the year. The Iron Bowl will be another freaking classic. And just like they always are at Auburn, it's rare that they're not. And it'll Kalen DeBoer has never in his career, and the man has coached in a national championship game. Kalen DeBoer and this entire staff has never felt the pressure that they will feel on 2 Saturdays from now. That'll be the most pressure that this staff has ever felt in their life.
and he hasn't exactly been nails on the road.
Nope.
So,
So this will be a gut check moment for his tenure and career at Alabama. I mean, we're 2 weeks early. I'll just go ahead and say it. If he loses that game, I don't know that there's, barring him winning a national championship the very next year. And even then, bro, I don't know that there's a whole lot he can do to earn good faith back from the Alabama fan base. If they get knocked out of the playoffs with this team this year by a 6-6 Auburn team, I don't think that there's about anything he can do. Whether that's fair or not doesn't matter. Fair, but life ain't fair. That's how that'll be.
yeah. So that's what Alabama needs to do. Oklahoma, really simple, man. I think you beat Missouri at home, you beat LSU at home. I think you're in the college football playoff.
Oh, they're in. Yeah, they'll be in. They win the next 2 games, or not. Maybe they're 100% in. They win the next
Yeah,
2 games.
and they'll be interesting too in the playoffs. So we'll talk about that here coming up. USC Iowa took place in just rainy Los Angeles. I mean, meteorologists everywhere last week were predicting. We're predicting all kind. They're all over the map with these predictions. Here on ATB, I pride myself in my meteorology knowledge, and I'll say it. I didn't check out the Los Angeles weather report that closely. I just assumed it's LA. It's going to be sunny. There's be clear skies, and
That's fair.
I could not have been more wrong. So me as a meteorologist, I mean, I would have probably gotten a raise at a local TV station after that. Um, It was rainy, it was wet, it was nasty, it was 58 degrees. They said they showed up something that was 8 degrees colder in LA than it was in Iowa City. It was sunny in Iowa City, it was raining in
Hilarious.
Los Angeles. It was the type of game that Iowa just absolutely loves, and they got up 14 nothing. I think they were up 21-7, and USC scores the final 19 points of the game. They had to have it to keep their season alive because
Yep.
they are still in the Big Ten championship and the college football playoff race. This is the second team that I've got to eat crow on because I've been harsh on USC. I've been harsh on Lincoln Riley. I know they're a rival of Notre Dame. They're trying to get out of that. Everybody knows that. He's been trying to escape stuff. He cannot escape the physicality of the Big Ten anymore. And to his credit, twice now this year, at home, not on the road, but twice now this year, they have impressed me with their physicality. That was a game tailor-made for the Iowa Hawkeyes and Kirk Ferentz, and them to get down
Mhm.
against that defense and to still come back and win the game. Because I mean, even with 4 losses now, we still have tons of respect for Iowa. That was a very impressive win for me by Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans, and you could tell when they won that game, he was pumped on the sidelines. So good for Lincoln Riley.
Agreed, man. And I just want to let me make sure I'm right. Yes, I also want to thank Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans for cashing my over 7.5 win total ticket on the season. As the USC Trojans are now 8-2, I had
Mhm.
over 7.5 wins on the year. That was I actually said on here that's my favorite win total bet of the year. Our boy at Pick Six Previews was all over that too as well.
Yeah.
Brett Ciancia.
Yep.
But you're right, man. This honestly, I'm not going to add a whole lot to it. Just great, hard fought, tough Big Ten, old school type Big Ten win for USC that up until that moment and up until the Michigan game this year and now the Iowa game and this game that most people thought Lincoln Riley's USC team could not do in the Big Ten. Like you said, they've done it twice now this year. I was impressed with them too on the road at Notre Dame. Like I know Notre Dame ran for a zillion yards against them,
Yeah.
but dude, I don't care what anybody said. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price are going to run on a lot of people, and the Irish are. But they went to Notre Dame, and I believe it was tough weather there too that night at South Bend. I think it was
Yep.
rainy and stuff that night
Yep.
too. And they played Notre Dame toe to toe. I mean, that was
Mhm.
a really good game, still well into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Trojans they've got I think like the number 1 or number 2 recruiting class in the country right now going into this next year. They're going to bring a lot back from this year's team as well. He's got a really good staff there around him. Lincoln Riley's got it going, man, there right now. For all of the stuff that people love to do to make fun of him, they are very impressive what they're accomplishing right now, bouncing back after that year they had last year. And I believe it was the year before, too, with Caleb Williams, that
Yeah.
they had a tough year that year as well. But yeah, USC, I believe that's probably the biggest game of the week, if I'm not mistaken, this coming up week at Oregon.
Yeah. Game day going to Eugene once again this year. Again, it's another November week where they're not going to an SEC venue, so it's embarrassing for that conference.
Whatever.
Yeah, the USC they get UCLA at the end of the year. Obviously, that's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. I think we can all project and say, okay, USC should beat UCLA. So maybe Oregon this week, and I mean, really, this is like a win and in. Like
Mhm.
Oregon gets this game against USC, and they got Washington at the end of the year, but they already have 10 wins. Like you got to get to that 10-win benchmark. So USC wins this game, Oregon wins this game. Like this is a very, very important game, probably the biggest game of the season.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I think if Oregon goes 10-2 again at this point with things that are happening around them, I'd be surprised if they don't make the playoff
yeah,
at 10-2.
yeah,
They may not have the overall resume for it, but still, I'd be surprised if they didn't get in. And yeah, if USC wins this game, they would have to have a cataclysmic failure the last week of the season against UCLA to
yeah,
not make it at that point. But yeah, I think I'm gonna ask you that real quick. Do you think USC can? Do you think USC can win in Eugene?
yeah. Yeah, they can
I
win in
agree.
Eugene. They can beat UCLA, and then if Michigan beats Ohio State at the end of the year, you're gonna have an Indiana USC Big Ten championship game here in Indy.
That'd be wild. That'd be
Yeah,
wild.
yeah. Um, Texas A&M looked dead in the water yesterday at halftime, down at home to 3-6 South Carolina, 30-3. everything was going wrong from the field to the police officers in the tunnel. Just
I saw where they relieved him of his duties, by the
they
way.
relieved him of his duties. Just an absolute meltdown from literally everyone in College Station besides the Gamecocks. And then, I mean, obviously everybody saw what happened in the second half. They won the second half 28-0 to win the game 31-30. As bad and atrocious and awful, and I don't know what other words I could describe his play in the first half. Marcel Reed looked in the first half, complete 180 in the second half. He was
Uh-huh.
hitting dimes. I think he threw 80% in the second half. I think he was like 16 for 20. Ended up with 439 yards, 3-4 touchdowns, something like that. They held on for the win at the end. Um, and as much as people want to talk about Heisman moments, like again, our thoughts on the Heisman, whatever you want to call that a Heisman moment for Marcel Reed. That was definitely his Heisman moment. But yeah, that's good teams are not supposed to do that. Elite teams can do that. They can shut out a team 28-0. I know they put themselves in that hole, but to lose the turnover battle 4-1 against a team like that and to still come back and win that game. And I know had that been at Williams-Brice, that probably would have been totally different because they had that crowd behind them. Kyle Field was absolutely on fire. And that was Mike Elko has absolutely changed the mentality of this program. Long been known as battered Aggie syndrome, Texas 8-4, all kinds of stuff. I think, obviously under, his predecessor, they probably would not have been able to come back in
No,
that
not
game.
probably. Not probably. They would have been beaten to death if
Yes.
Jimbo Fisher was still there.
But I can't imagine what Mike Elko said to them at halftime. They came out on fire in the second half, got the job done. They stay undefeated. They're obviously now in the driver's seat. All they got to do is beat Texas to get into the SEC championship game. And even if they lose that game, they're still in pretty good shot, to reach the SEC championship game and the college football playoff. I think 10-0. I don't think they're going to lose this week. I think they play Samford. They'll be 11-0. So I think they're pretty well locked into a college football playoff spot.
Yeah, they're locked. And I just want to bring something up. It's amazing what a season can do. So, do you remember before the season I was putting out the would you rathers? I got absolutely destroyed on one that I put out. I put a picture of Shane Beamer and a picture of Mike Elko. And I said, who would you rather have as the head coach for your favorite team if you could only choose between these two guys,
Mm-hmm.
Mike Elko or Shane Beamer? And everybody was like, are you kidding me? Shane Beamer, of course. Just destroyed me for it.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, I may go there and do the old update.
You got any comments on there? You got any comments you want to read?
Take an update. I may do that since everybody likes to do that to us. I may do that. I may just sit back tonight, have a little sip of a little bit of bourbon, and just start commenting to all those comments. Update. Can I get an update to all those folks?
You got any comments you want to read live on air here?
Do I got any comments I want to read live on air?
Any comments that you can think of?
Let me see if I can find any. Let me see if I can find any on there. But yeah, there was definitely some. But on the flip side of that, you just hit it really well in regards to A&M, like the game played on the field. I want to really hit home on what you said about Mike Elko and the difference between him and what's going on there in College Station. And our boy Brian Driscoll with Irish Breakdown tweeted it out yesterday. I came across it on X yesterday as well, and I couldn't agree more with this tweet. I'll paraphrase, but he was just talking about, he said, the reason Texas A&M won that game and was able to come back and win that game was because of culture. The culture that Mike Elko has built already in College Station is remarkable. Like you said, good teams don't come back in situations like that, down 27 against another team that does. I mean, say what you want to say about South Carolina. They still got a dude that is going to have a chance to play on Sundays at quarterback, the athlete that Lenore Sellers is. They're still good enough athletes to play in the SEC at a P4 level. To be down 27 points and to still have not just think you can, but have 100% belief that you can come back and win that game and to not fold your tent and to do what they did there in the second half, that's culture is what that is. Like you said, if Jimbo Fisher was still the coach of that team and stuff, that score ends up being 40 something to 10, South Carolina, if it's 30-3 at the half. So, and I know that Casey Concepcion and Marcel Reed and that crew is going to steal the headlines for what they did. But for the A&M defense to not give up a point in the second half is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And once again, Texas A&M had 10 tackles for a loss. Every single week, that defense is just wreaking havoc in the backfield, getting sacks, getting TFLs. They had 4 sacks and 10 tackles for a loss in this game. So, yeah, it was, we say it every year, man. So far, the Buckeyes are the only team that haven't had that moment. Like, I think back to teams, even some of the greatest teams, man. I mean, even LSU's Joe Burrow team got pushed in a couple of games. That's always a team that everybody likes to bring up. I think Alabama's 2020 year, the COVID year, is the only year I can think of where a team just did not get pushed
Yeah.
In a game. And I had to have that game where they have like a crazy moment to win, or they end up losing the game. Like we've seen other teams lose games this year.
Yep.
So that was A&M's moment. And they pulled it out and won. And at this point, they're in the college football playoff. They're not losing to Samford. And if they lose to Texas, they'll still be in the college football playoff.
Yep.
So huge win for the Ags because I think people were talking about it, man, during that first half. Okay, if they lose this game and it stays this ugly and they lose this game, and then they happen to lose the last game of the year against Texas, and 2 of their last 3 games of the year are L's, and one of them is at home to a 6 or 7 loss, whatever South Carolina was going to end up being at the end of the year team, they might not have made the playoff.
And you look at their schedule, like all they had would be that Notre Dame win.
Yep.
Yeah.
They might not have made the playoff, man. Right or wrong, the resume would have shown that they might not be a playoff team at that point. They don't have to worry about it anymore. Now all they got to worry about is if they're going to get a first round bye, if they're going to play for the SEC championship game or not. But I will correct myself on that. Now they have to worry about is something that I think every Texas A&M fan would dream of right now, and that is they want to go into Austin, Texas, and bury the Horns and go to the SEC championship after that with a chance to win their first SEC championship game ever and beat the Horns on the way there.
Yeah.
And send the Horns to go sit down on the couch somewhere and watch them play the rest of the year. I think that's what every Texas A&M fan would love right now.
Keep that undefeated season alive.
Correct.
In Pittsburgh, you were right, man. You nailed it. Massive, massive step up in competition for the Panthers against Fighting Irish, 37-15. Pitt had, I think, around midway third quarter, they had around 80 total yards. It's just total mismatch. Started off with Jeremiah Love, just an absolute highlight reel touchdown like he does every week. Very next play, Mason Heinschel throws a pick 6, and it's just kind of, you knew it was over from there. Game was out of hand, midway the third quarter. Pat Narduzzi decides to, burn timeouts and get a touchdown there at the end. And I think, these two teams match up. I'd have to look at the schedule to see if they're on the schedule next year. But like if Pitt's making the return visit to Notre Dame, but that's something Marcus Freeman and those guys won't forget.
Freeman's handshake after that game showed how much he thought of that.
Quick dap, quick pat on the back.
The head turned to the side, didn't even look at him, and just dap and walked off fast as he could. Yep, I think that told it all.
He probably felt sorry for him, honestly, but that was Pitt's chance to, kind of show, like we talked about their schedule, that 5-game winning streak, like they had looked impressive. Their offense looked impressive. The Notre Dame defense is just kind of rounding into form, it seems. I know they're probably, themselves aren't playing the best competition other than, USC in this, winning streak they have. But their defense is definitely turned a corner, especially since those first 2 games, especially that second game, week 3 against A&M. Tackling's better, all that stuff. Do you have any concerns about CJ Carr? And it's kind of some of his decision making that, some of those just not great throws. I mean, I know we talked about it with Ty Simpson. He's a first-year starter.
Yep.
CJ Carr, first-year starter. I know we got a ton of first-year starters. We talked about it going into the season that, Julian Sain's a first-year starter. We haven't seen him tested yet. Like we just talked about the Buckeyes. Gunnar Stockton's a first-year starter. We've seen him tested. We've seen what he can do. Like, do you have any concerns about CJ Carr? Because obviously Notre Dame's got Syracuse. They've got Stanford. They should win both those games handily. They're going to be 30-plus point favorites in both those games. They should win those games handily. They should finish 10-2. I think I saw our boy Jake Crane even calling them a playoff lock at this point right now. So,
Yep.
got any concerns about CJ Carr in the college football playoff, especially if they stick around that 9-10 range and they're going on the road first week of the playoffs?
Yeah, CJ Carr, in my opinion, unlike what's his face quarterback, I'm going blank, Riley Leonard.
Yeah.
Unlike Riley Leonard, and I know Leonard did some things last year. I mean, I'm sure some Notre Dame fans will hate what I'm about to say. If if an opposing team shuts down the Notre Dame run game, which is very hard to do, CJ Carr is good enough to drop back and win Notre Dame a game with his arm against another team. He has that type of arm talent and that type of just pure raw arm talent in general. In this wide receiver core for Notre Dame, we saw Malachi Fields do what he did yesterday, Eli Reardon, and so on with that crew. But on the flip side of that, he's also can go lose you a game which is like Riley Leonard didn't really do that last year for Notre Dame. Like he was a steady rock, like wasn't going to go out there and lose you a game. The Notre Dame defense and the running game last year and their culture is what kind of did things in the playoffs for them. But you rarely correct me if I'm wrong though, man. You see every single game, every single snap of this team play. Like I don't think Leonard was the type that was going to go out there if the other team took away completely the running game, that he was just going to go be able to win a huge game in the college football playoff with his arm. Am I wrong on that?
No, I mean, Penn State did its best against the running game, and you remember in that second half, Leonard made a couple touchdown
It's true.
throws, and even when they were
It's true.
coming back against Ohio State in the championship game, he made some throws to Jaden
That's true.
Greathouse. Um,
Well, I may be wrong on that, but the point of it is I
yeah.
think every Notre Dame fan would agree that CJ Carr's arm talent, his ability as a passer, just a raw passer, is better than
Mhm.
what Riley Leonard is,
Yep.
and that can help you big time in a game in a college football playoff game when you run up, like if you run up against an Oklahoma, for example, with the nasty D front that they've got, and they're just shutting your running game down, like your fastball is being hit into the bleachers and you got to come up with a second pitch. Well, CJ Carr has a great second pitch with his ability to throw the football. But with that, yeah, there are times like that pick that he threw yesterday against Pitt, where there's some throws sometimes that you're just like, what was that? And just so awful. Like you just didn't see something at all. But again, you got to think this is a first year starter
Yep.
at this level that's doing that. But am I worried about him? Honestly, man, I mean, I'm not more worried about him than any other quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm really not. Like he's already been in two just massive battles, 2 weeks, first two games of his in college career as a starter against A&M and against Miami. And he's already been in a really good game in a battle with USC. Every single week, Notre Dame's been in elimination mode every single week. So they've had a lot of pressure on them. So I'm impressed with CJ Carr in this passing game and obviously the running game as well. And at this point, man, I'll just go ahead and say we can talk way more about this later on. I texted this to you yesterday. I think I would honestly put maybe Notre Dame around 2 or 3 as far as teams that if I'm going to make a bet for a team to win the national championship before the college football playoff, before I even see like the bracket and what matchups people are getting and what gauntlet they have to run to get through the college football playoffs, just team A plays team B on a neutral field, who wins the game in a playoff scenario. I think I'd put Notre Dame, bro, at this point, right behind Ohio State. They're right there with Indiana, A&M, all those teams that I would put to possibly win it all. I'm not saying Notre Dame should be the second or third ranked team in the country. Like they're ranked where they should
Yeah.
be ranked at this moment. But as far as when the playoffs go to roll around, there's a whole lot of teams, bro, that are sitting there going to be in that 5, 6, 7 range, 8 range that aren't going to be thrilled that they've got to go against this Irish football team because, like you said, they're rounded into form defensively and they have some serious weapons on offense that can do some damage.
Yep. All right, let's get to our Week 13 ATB Top 12 rankings. We're going to start off with a new number one, but it's an old number one, and we talked about them. They haven't really been the only team in the country that hasn't been tested, and that's got to speak something. I know the schedule has been soft, but that's got to speak volumes. The number one, Ohio State Buckeyes. Just another ho-hum 48-10 victory over UCLA yesterday. They didn't have Carnell Tate. They didn't have Jeremiah Smith in the second half, but they just kept rolling. They get Rutgers at home, and then they get the big one. at Michigan, and that they're all focused on that one. They want to win that game. Obviously, if they don't, and I saw someone on X, I think I texted you, Peter Burns, right, who talking about they should lose that game and get Michigan into the playoffs, and that knocks out an SEC team, and then Ohio State. I'm like, just ridiculous. But Ohio State, they keep rolling, man. They're number one.
Yeah, I mean, again, they right now they just don't seem like they have a weakness. It just feels that way. I mean, I know they haven't again played one of the top tier teams in college football, but when you watch this team play, bro, like they're they look like the best team in college football, and it's not just the results against weaker competition. I mean, they're doing to this weaker competition what a really good team should do. They're just blasting them, and they're great along the defensive front. Their front seven's legit. Their secondary's legit. Their depth across about every single position, it seems like. I mean, they had Bo Jackson yesterday, running back, go for 112 yards at 7.5 a carry against UCLA. That just, okay, we don't have Jeremiah Smith for a half. We don't have Carnell Tate for a game. All right, so be it. We'll just take this one of our running backs, one of our, two or three or four backs that we've got, and we'll just run for 100 something yards against you instead. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, another ho hum performance, but another impressive just beat down of another team week in and week out. We watch all these other teams struggle with a lesser opponent at some point during the year. We've not seen Ohio State do that
Yeah.
this year.
Number two, Indiana Hoosiers. Just another ho-hum victory over Wisconsin, 31-7. They get a bye week before they play the Old Oak and Bucket game up at Purdue. Indiana is a lock for the college football playoff.
Yep.
A team like Indiana, the program like Indiana would love to have a Big Ten championship too. So they're one of those teams that will be going for it with the number one team, Ohio State. But like we talked about, man, both those teams are 12-0. Like what does that Big Ten championship matter other than like you just have a Big Ten banner to hang? Like both teams 12-0 going into that game. I would seed them both 1-2, no matter the outcome of that game, and I would just whoever won will get the 1 seed, whoever loses get the 2 seed, right?
Maybe. I think
Unless
if
A&M would go unless A&M would be undefeated and go 13-0, then okay, they drop down to the 3
yeah,
seed.
yeah, I think that there's your answer. If A&M's undefeated going to the SEC championship and they beat, let's just say if it's Georgia, for example, and they beat 11-1 Georgia in that game in the Georgia Dome. Georgia Dome in the Mercedes Benz Dome. That would, yeah, I think A&M would be the 2 seed in that scenario. But you're right. As far as college football playoff wise, I mean, really, it only matters as far as seeding is concerned. But I think you hit the nail on the head in regards to Indiana. I mean, they absolutely, I think, will be playing their freaking hearts out to win a Big Ten championship and to have an undefeated regular season and undefeated Big Ten season and be Big Ten champs like that. They absolutely will in that scenario. I want to mention, though, you say ho-hum performance. I agree. They took care of business against a much weaker opponent. Wisconsin defensively has caused problems for a lot of teams this year.
Yeah.
And Fernando Mendoza went 22 for 24. He had a Julian Sayin type game where he threw more touchdowns than incompletions in a game. But yeah, 22 for 24. Let's just call it 299. We'll just say 300. 22 for 24, 300 yards and 4 tutties, no picks. Wow. Pretty good performance.
In Fernando Mendoza's last 4 games at home, he's thrown 16 touchdown passes and 15 incompletions. He's now even money on FanDuel to win the Heisman Trophy. And I think if it's 12-0 versus 12-0, whoever wins that game is probably going to win the Heisman Trophy. So I guess that's one more thing to play for.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And let's just mention him one more time since we got to mention him for the first time ever last week.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, this Charlie Becker.
Yeah.
Like, exciting White. Just running around at wide receiver for Indiana. 5 catches, 108 yards, 21.6 per grab, and a tutty. Come on now. That's another weapon now that Indiana's got when Elijah Surratt gets back and gets healthy. That's just another weapon that the Hoosiers have now that they've discovered throughout this process. But, good job, Indiana, taking care of business there. Who we got at number 3?
Number 3, Texas A&M. They dropped down from number 1. Obviously, they won the game. So we're gonna dock them a little bit for that. But yeah, we talked about them already. 31-30 comeback victory over South Carolina. Marcel Reed looked really, really good in the second half. The whole team looked really, really good. I mean, you couldn't look much worse than they did, and with all the drops and everything in the first half. But now A&M, I believe they get Samford this week. Should be a victory, and then they go to Austin to try to take down the Horns and get to their first ever SEC championship game.
Yeah, I mean, again, that A&M is nothing else to be said other than what we already talked about earlier, that the culture that Mike Elko there has built, the ability to come back from 27 points like that. They put the graphic up during the game. SEC teams up to that point when they're down 27 in SEC play were 0 and like 200 zillion. Uh,
286, yeah.
yeah, it was like 0 and 280 something
Yep.
in that scenario. So that was history. History was made in that spot. But yeah, I mean, at this point, they're in the playoff. It's just a matter of, are they going to be the 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed? Or do they lose to Texas? And if they were to lose, if they make it to the SEC championship game and also lose that game, like how far do they drop in the like far as the seeding is concerned? But at this point, the Ags are in. So what a that win was huge for many different reasons. Just ask Alabama their loss to Oklahoma. That now Alabama's forced to where they have to win their huge rivalry game at the end of the year to get into the playoff.
Yep.
A&M, I know you don't want to lose your rivalry game, but even if they do lose the game, the consequences of that are going to be, dang, we lost to our bitter rival that we never want to lose to. It's not, our season's over.
Yeah. Yep. Number 4, the Georgia Bulldogs, convincing win over Texas, 35-10. And I mean, they're right up there with A&M in my mind with like the class of the SEC this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no weakness right now for them.
Yeah.
They've gotten better. We talked about it earlier in this episode that it's just wild to say this because, like, we're talking about Georgia. What a coaching performance that Kirby Smart and his staff has done as far as all of these teams that we are mentioning right now in these rankings. I don't think that there's a team that is more improved from earlier this year to right now. They don't have a weakness on offense right now. Not one. Not a single weakness. They can hit you from literally every different angle on their offense with their tight ends. They're elite. Wide receivers, they're elite. Running backs they've got 2 or 3 that are running as good as anybody in the country right now. Gunnar Stockton is playing the quarterback position as well as you can play it. He won't get any talk about Heisman Trophy and whatnot, but that dude is absolutely running that the mean machine in red and black, running that machine of that offense as well as you could run it. He's got total command
Yep.
of that offense, confident. He's not turning the ball over. He's tough as nails. The Georgia defense continues to get better and better week in and week out. At this point, Georgia's just sitting back, and I know they've got their huge rivalry game with the Jackets coming up here in a couple of weeks in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. I mean, again, if they were to lose that game, it's just a matter of where do they fall in the playoff rankings at that point. They're going to still be in the playoffs. I believe they are a lock to get in now no matter what. If they win that game, there's a chance that Georgia could not go to the SEC championship game and still possibly sit there and get a first round bye
Yeah.
in the playoff.
Yeah.
There is an opportunity for that to happen still with them. That would be, I think Kirby Smart behind closed doors would be like, oh, wait, so you're telling me I don't have to go play in the SEC championship and I still get a first round bye?
Yeah.
Like, come on now.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would sign up for that.
Number 5, we got Texas Tech Red Raiders. And I mean, they just dominated UCF 48-9. That's exactly what they needed. Baron Morton only played late into the first half.
Yep.
So they were able to get him some rest. And if you don't think the Heisman Trophy matters to Texas Tech and the folks down there in Lubbock, take another look because Jacob Rodriguez obviously doing his thing on defense again, 9 tackles, 1 interception. And Joey McGuire was like, you know what? If it's going to be if it's an award just for quarterbacks, let's put him at quarterback at the 1-yard line and have him run in a touchdown. His first ever touchdown. Um, they got the campaign in full force. We respect it. We don't really care about the Heisman, but hey, it would be really cool to see a guy like Jacob Rodriguez win the Heisman.
I've always been of one that thinks that they should invite 5 people to the Heisman Trophy, no matter what. Like that should be a thing where 5 players across all of college football should get recognition, go to New York and get recognition for being there. Whether the guy that's going to go there at the 5th spot has any chance to win it at all is irrelevant. Like this isn't a participation thing. It's just like we have 5 people that we're going to invite. And right now, if I was responsible for choosing 5 people to invite, Jacob Rodriguez would be the 5th that I would be inviting at this point. The year that he's had, like you said, the only difference is I know the jokes flying all over the internet. I think you even said it. He doesn't have a fake girlfriend, and he's not wearing a gold helmet with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Yeah.
Is the only difference. I mean, his numbers are, if I'm not mistaken, are even better
Yeah,
than
they're
what
right up there.
Manti
Yeah.
Te'o put up
Yep.
that year for Notre Dame. Very impressive year what he's put up, and I actually am totally fine with it and love it that Joe McGuire is doing the. He's kind of the last few weeks shown us a little. He's got a little pettiness to him.
Yeah.
Got a little
Now, yeah,
fire
it's
to
coming
him.
out.
He's willing to kind of poke the bear a little bit and talk a little
He might get his
trash.
wish. He might get his wish on a couple of those things.
He might. I don't know if he wants that.
Yeah.
But the deal there about how he said after the game where, yeah, it just seems like it's only a quarterback award if you're not scoring touchdowns on offense that you can't be part of the Heisman Trophy gig. So we said, you know what? If we get close to the goal line, we're going to put him in at Wildcat quarterback.
Yep.
So show you that he can do that too. So yeah, but dominant performance for Guns Up, like you said, great for them that they're able to get Baron Morton some rest. They were able to get Griffiths some playing time. Is it Mitch? Not Mitch, is it?
Yeah, Mitch
Griffiths.
Griffiths. Yep.
Yeah, it is Mitch Griffiths. Got him some playing time. He was 13 of 17, was efficient. Because again, there's a chance that Morton does get knocked out of one of these games here coming up. They're going to need him now that Will Hammond's not available. So
Yeah.
to get him some playing time, just like you said, I'll say perfect storm for Texas Tech in this game. It was perfect how it ended up working out for them.
They get a bye week and then they go to Morgantown
Oof.
Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Not an easy place, bro. Not an easy
Nope.
place. And the reason why I think it's even funnier is I think you know why. Before the season,
Oh yeah.
when we had Josh Abbott on, I did mention, what if Texas Tech sitting there, all they got to do is win
Mhm.
last week of the season, get into the Big 12 championship, college football playoffs are on the line type stuff. And then you look and see the last game of the year is in freaking Morgantown.
Yep.
That's not an easy place to play, man.
Number 6, we got Ole Miss. All the drama and speculation surrounding that game yesterday. Ole Miss comes out with a 34-24 victory. They have moved into our locks portion. They got to 10-1 on the season. They get a bye week, then they get the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State. I think even if they would have dropped that one, it would just be a matter of where they're placed and probably on the road. But right now they're slated. They beat Mississippi State. They're going to host a game in Oxford, playoff game in Oxford, which would be wild scenes there for that fan base. Obviously, the talk is surrounding Lane Kiffin in Florida. And I mean, it just seems to be picking up more and more steam, even though he's not necessarily denying it, but he's not leaning into it. And I mean, can you blame him? You got a team on the cusp of the playoff here. It just kind of makes you wonder, okay, is there something in the back room that like they've already agreed to stuff, which again, in today's day and age where guys can transfer whatever, like he could bring his entire Ole Miss team to Florida next year. Like they're just wearing different uniforms. Like whatever.
Yep.
It's not like you know, it's not like he's leaving these, some players behind or whatever. So it's an interesting situation going on with Lane. I mean, it's always interesting with Lane, but right now it's especially interesting.
It is, man. And that was, I can't imagine, again, just as far as he's concerned, how tough that was this past week with everything that's going on.
Imagine if that game had been played in Gainesville.
Oh, I know, man. And look, like, let's bring ourselves to a human level here. I know we like to bag on people or make jokes and whatnot. On a human level, like, that this is outside of Ole Miss fans, I think everybody realizes this is a tough decision for him.
Yeah.
Like, Ole Miss has been nothing but good to him, great to him. It's a perfect situation for him. Even outside the football stuff, like the dude is a family man again. Like his ex-wife, Layla Kiffin's living there with him. Like his son's playing at Oxford High School in Knox. His daughter goes to Ole Miss. I mean, there's just everything good is going on right now at Ole Miss. And a job that he's always coveted. I'm going to say his mentor, but like his hero growing up, Steve Spurrier, one of the reasons he wears a visor, all that stuff. He adored Florida growing up, and he's got an opportunity. He's going to have the opportunity to go coach there. And I'm not saying that's where he's going to go, but that's a tough situation for him, man, to coach in this game this week with all of the outside noise that was going on around it. And you know my thoughts on him. I've always been a Kiffin fan, even before people were a Kiffin fan. Uh, I loved him to death when he was the OC at Alabama, and just happy for him, man. What he's got going on right now, because he's the belle of the ball. He's going to have his pick to do whatever the heck he wants to do, and he's earned that for what he's done at Ole Miss. I talked about it in the preseason. Ole Miss before he got there had, I think, they're not. I don't think I know their record for most wins in a season, I believe, was 10 wins before he got there. And I think he just did it for the third year in a row with that
Yep.
win
Yep.
last night. Just remarkable, man. It really is. And Florida gave him a scare. They showed up for a fight. That talented bunch that Florida does have, if they decide to turn it on and play, you can find yourselves in a dogfight real quick. And Ole Miss did last night, and they were able to come out with that win. I agree with you. The Rebs are a lock at this point to make the college football playoff. Dude, the playoffs are going to be really interesting, but it's going to be real. Dude, that team with that coach, the offensive mind that he is, and the staff that he's got around him there, giving that guy and that staff multiple weeks to prep for you in a playoff game, they are going to be a problem in a playoff game for any defense to have to work with and deal with. Is as good and as overall as good as that team, the athletes they've got on the perimeter, the quarterback play, the running. I mean, dude, running back, everything with that offense. And then you got Kiffin and that group to be able to prepare for you like that for multiple weeks. They're going to be a problem in a college football playoff.
Number 7, the Oklahoma Sooners. We had them 12th last week, moving all the way up to number 7. Really impressive win as 6.5-point dogs on the road in Tuscaloosa, breaking Alabama's 17-game home win streak. The offense did what they needed to do. Mateer, we talked about him, man, didn't force any turnover worthy plays. Like he wasn't like the gunslingers. Like I'm going to run the ball. He didn't put it in harm's way. Made some really good throws down the stretch.
He had one where he put it right into Justin Jefferson, the linebacker's hands, and they dropped it. Like I said, he'll have one or two a game.
Yeah.
That was the only one that he had yesterday that was absolutely should have been a pick, and Alabama dropped it. But you're right. Overall, he played really well.
Yep.
Played fine. He played good enough.
Yep. And so they control their own destiny right now, going up against Missouri and LSU, both in Norman. Number 8, we got Alabama. And they suffer another loss to Oklahoma in the month of November. So basically, it's pretty simple for Alabama. They take care of Mercer this week, obviously, and you take care of Auburn in 2 weeks, and you're probably in the SEC championship game. For sure, a lock to be in the college football playoff. And if you lose that game to Auburn, they're probably gonna be out for the second year in a row, and people are gonna have questions about Kalen DeBoer, and they're gonna look at it as the same thing happened last year. They collapsed in the month of November. So like you said, man, earlier in the episode, like him and that coaching staff, these next 2 weeks are just going to be under an insane amount of pressure.
Be the most pressure he's ever been in his life.
Yep.
And in his football life.
Yep.
I don't know about as far as obviously personal life, but yeah, in his football life, it'll be the most pressure that he has ever felt because of the stakes and the way that things just are there at Alabama, and that rivalry with Alabama and Auburn, with that fan base at Alabama. It'll be just unbelievable. The pressure meter will be as far to the right as it can possibly be.
Pucker meter.
It is absolutely all of it's there.
Yeah.
But good news is they're a better football team than Auburn. They are. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to go win that game or whatever, but it's still, they're the better football team, and they should go and take care of business in that game. If they've got anything about them, they will go into Jordan-Hare Stadium and take care of business and win that football game, and they'll be in the college football playoffs.
I think the fact that they are more talented, that puts even more pressure on them.
Oh, agreed. Again, I'm not saying there's nothing anybody can say to me at this point. Like, I don't care that there's going to be some people that's going to try to act like, well, there's no pressure. Just no, everything pressure wise, all of it is all on Alabama's shoulders. Every player, every coach, anybody that has anything to do with that football program, it is all on them. They created that with that loss and performance yesterday against Oklahoma.
Yep.
And with that performance and that loss that they had first game of the year, that just no excuse of the way they played against Florida State. That is what they've created in this opportunity that they've got in the Iron Bowl. It will be for everything. That's what this game will be for.
Number 9, we got the Oregon Ducks, the 9-1 Oregon Ducks. Obviously, they have less losses. We just think Oklahoma's body work, Alabama's body work, the wins that they have are more impressive than really like the one win Iowa has at Iowa City. They took care of business Friday night though, and obviously they got a big one coming up this week against USC.
Yes, they do. I mean, again, you just hit the nail on the head. As far as the overall resume is concerned, and really Oregon's win at Iowa is their only really impressive win. And I think that some people out there would try to knock that win and even act like that's
Yeah,
not that impressive. That now that Iowa has 4 losses. Uh, if you watched Iowa play yesterday against USC in that game, if you watched Iowa play against Oregon in their matchup in that game, Iowa's a good football team. And going into Iowa City in that scenario with that weather, just everything that was, the injuries that they had to their key players, I mean, multiple key players, especially on offense, that they had out in that game and still came away with a win. Very impressive win by the Ducks.
I
But
don't think it'll shock me one bit. I don't think they'll do it, but it wouldn't shock me one bit if the committee kept Iowa in the top 25 after yesterday.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but you're right. Like it would.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't. Again, did you walk away from that USC game and think that that's not a good football team? I
yeah,
didn't. I didn't
yeah,
walk away feeling that way. But
yep,
eventually, as far as they're concerned, you have to win like
yep.
some of these games eventually.
Mhm.
But the Ducks, they have a huge opportunity this week, being college game day, being in town, being the biggest game of the weekend. All eyes will be on the Ducks and in that matchup against USC. They get a win there. They will probably move up maybe in our rankings. But as far as the committee is concerned, they're probably going to have them somewhere around 6, if I had to guess, 6 or 7 this week
Yep.
in their rankings. So, but good. The Ducks have everything still. As long as I think, even if they go 10-2, they're probably going to be in the college football playoff. So if they win this week, they're all but a lock, no matter
Yep.
what happens in the Washington game.
Number 10, we got Notre Dame. Yeah, they beat the number 22 team on the road, and we dropped them a spot. That's just kind of, and don't be surprised on Tuesday night if they drop a spot because Oklahoma had the bigger win. And we'll talk about the AP poll here in a second, but we got Notre Dame at number 10. Obviously, dominant performance against Pitt. They get Syracuse and Stanford coming up. Not really much else to say about Notre Dame other than what we've already said a lot. So we'll move on to number 11. We got BYU, the Vampires. They did it once again. 44-13 victory at home against TCU. Never in doubt, just absolutely throttled them. And BYU is right there. I mean, them in Utah, the performances they put on yesterday, really making a case. If stuff happens, it breaks the right way, you could see 2 or 3 teams from the Big 12 get in.
Yep, couldn't agree more. I stayed up and watched through the first 3.5, by first 3 quarters of that game until it got his way out of hand.
Yeah.
And dude, they looked good last night, man. They looked so good.
Mhm.
All of the stuff that Kalani Satake said leading into that game, the focus that team had, the sense of urgency that they had. There was all the stuff they were saying pregame on ESPN about that leading into the game. All of that showed when you watched that game. There were some other teams that said that this past week, Alabama, that didn't show that type of just sense of urgency and attention to detail. And that's what BYU showed in that game. Just absolutely throttled TCU. Like, dude, just to look like a complete and utter mismatch. And TCU's got some athletes, and they've got a
Yeah.
good quarterback, and they look like they didn't belong on the field with BYU. Very, very, very impressive performance for the Cougs in
Yep.
that game.
Number 12 to round out our top 12, we got the USC Trojans. I think we respect them more than the committee and the AP poll will.
Yep.
We got USC. We just outright impressive. Going on the road, losing at Illinois, and going on the road, losing at Notre Dame. nothing to scoff at. They got a couple big wins against Michigan and Iowa. They got a really big opportunity in front of them against Oregon. We talked about that game already. We're going to talk about that in length in our preview episode coming up here later this week for week 13. Game day is going to be there and everything, but just impressed by the physicality against Iowa coming out that victory in weather that they're clearly just not used to playing in Los Angeles.
Yep. Again, I'm USC wins against their win against Michigan. A couple of teams it's going to be that the committee probably will have ahead of USC in the AP poll, who they'll have ahead of USC. I don't know that they've got better wins than what USC has right now. And again, I'm still impressed with the fact of how they played, even in a loss on the road at Notre Dame in that game. You and I both have Illinois ranked probably higher than some other folks do. USC's one of their other losses on the road in Champaign at Illinois. That's not a bad loss. So their resume overall is solid. And if you haven't watched this USC team play yet, then probably sit this one out. But they're a solid football team, man. They are. They're a lot more physical than they've been since Lincoln Riley's been there. They've got not arguably, if you look at the numbers, they are one of the best offenses in all of college football. From a yards per carry perspective, from a passing yards perspective, just overall, man, they're a solid football team. And they've got everything to play for this weekend when all eyes will be on that game in Eugene against a really good Duck squad.
Yep. So looking at college football playoff predictions here at our bracket, the first four out that are just sitting there lurking for an at-large spot, we got Utah, BYU, USC, and Vanderbilt just on the outside looking in. Right now, we got Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, A&M 3, and Georgia 4 getting the buys. You got an 8-9 matchup in Tuscaloosa, Alabama against Oregon. That would just be – that's the matchup everybody's wanted to see for a decade and a half, right?
Yeah, and Dan Lanning versus Kalen DeBoer again.
Oh man, that would be a fun game to watch. 5-12 matchup, Texas Tech in Lubbock against Tulane. We got Tulane getting that 12th spot right now. That will be a fun matchup there. Ole Miss, Georgia Tech in the 6-11. And then how about this for a 7-10 matchup in Norman? Notre Dame going on the road to play Oklahoma, and the winner gets Indiana. That would be a fun one too. So that's kind of what our bracket looks like. You could talk about the AP poll. 4 newcomers to the AP poll. We got Houston and Willie Fritz at 25, Tulane at 24, Mizzou at 23, and North Texas coming in at 22. So you get some G5 love there. JMU's at 21. So you got 3 G5 teams there, 21, 22, and 24. So it'll be interesting to see what the committee does on Tuesday night and if they go with the AP poll and JMU gets the nod and will be the highest ranked team. We'll see. I mean, we tend to think it should be Tulane here. Tennessee, UVA, they're still at 19 and 20. Michigan didn't move a single spot because they just didn't look impressive at Wrigley Field. It was a borderline home game for them, and they still struggled to beat Northwestern. So I think they're just luring everybody into taking Ohio State in the points in a couple weeks, and we're not going to fall for that trap here again on ATV. Texas dropped down 7 spots to number 17. So they are the highest ranked 3-loss team. They're actually in front of Michigan and Virginia. So we'll see what the committee does with them on Tuesday. USC's up 1 spot to 16. Georgia Tech moved down to 15. Did not look impressive against Boston College. They've looked a little suspect, obviously, in their loss to NC State. So they are kind of, faltering down the stretch here and just not looking like the Brent Key Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets that we have known to love. Miami at 14, Utah 13, Vandy 12, BYU 11. This is kind of shocking. Alabama dropped down 6 spots to number 10. I would have thought they would have kind of had a little bit more respect for them. They did bump OU up to 8 and put Notre Dame right in between both of those two. So you got 3 8-2 teams there. Obviously, we think that Notre Dame out of those 3 has the weakest resume. I know they got the best losses, but best wins over USC and Pitt. I don't think they come close to kind of what Alabama and Oklahoma have done. So, again, we'll see what the committee does on Tuesday night with those 3. Oregon and Texas Tech have tied for number 6 behind Ole Miss. They put Ole Miss at 5, which is you kind of see them kind of go in line with the CFP And they didn't do that here because Texas Tech was ahead of Ole Miss in the college football playoffs. So that's interesting there. What they'll do with those teams. And then Georgia 4, A&M 3, Indiana 2, and Ohio State 1.
It is interesting on the Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma deal
Yeah.
there, but uh, I mean, I'm going to be interested to see what the committee does there too, because if you just want to go by eye test and who you think the better football team is, I mean, I think you can make a strong argument, man, that right now Notre Dame's a better football team
Yeah.
than Alabama. Resume wise, I know it doesn't show that, but yeah, I mean, if they come out and if they say it with their chest, if they have Notre Dame ahead of Alabama, that's the reason why. Then okay, so be it. But I agree. I tend to agree with where we have that. I think they'll have Oklahoma 8, Alabama 9, Notre Dame 10 is what I think they'll end up having. But I won't be shocked if it's that right there, what you just showed, what you
Yep.
just said that the AP has.
Yep. So we talked about college football playoff picture. Obviously, I think we've got locks on Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, A&M, and Ole Miss.
Yep.
So that's 2 Big Ten, 3 SEC. I know I talked about Crane having Notre Dame. I don't know if I'm ready to put them there yet, assuming they're going to win the next 2. But again, that all depends on where the committee has them on Tuesday night. If they got them in front of like Oklahoma and Alabama or sandwiched in between, then I'd be like, okay, that's enough respect. Maybe you can say they win their next 2 games. They're not going to fall out of that top 10.
I have them as a lock.
Okay. So that's
That was what I didn't wanna say before the Pitt game that I stopped myself last week, and I
yeah.
told you, I said, "Out of respect for you being, like, my homie and one of my
Yeah.
best friends, not just a podcast, ATB part a
Yeah.
co-host here,
Yeah.
I didn't wanna jinx it." But, I agree with Crane. At this point, I have them as a lock. I do not see the committee dropping this Notre Dame team out. The casuals can sit around and argue and all that all they want. Well, Notre Dame's resume, whatever. When you watch this football team play, they're one of the whatever best teams in the country, and they're going to be in the college football playoff if they're 10-2. Which again, something cataclysmic would have to happen
Yeah.
for them to lose to Syracuse and Stanford.
So yeah, that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Half the field possibly locked in.
Yep.
We'll be back on Tuesday night, obviously, for our live show, sometime in between the Champions Classic.
I have a best bet that I want to give out right now.
Okay.
I don't care how big of a win it was, whatever. This team is going to be now playing at home for the first time, it seems like in forever. Dude, I think the last time that they were on their home field, it was in a loss to Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Oklahoma just had a huge win against Alabama. Yes, they did. But there shouldn't be any flat spot with the fact of that Oklahoma has to win the next 2 games to get into the college football playoff. I am of the belief that these last 2 wins on the road for Oklahoma has built even more confidence for them as a team. And I think that matchup on the field, what does Mizzou do well, Tyler?
Run the ball.
What does Oklahoma just shut down?
Stop the run.
Matt Zoller's true freshman quarterback in his first ever road start in Norman against that defense that I just watched yesterday. Just again, they get after the quarterback, sacks, tackles for a loss, they force turnovers, they're physical. It's Brent Venables. He's a mastermind, he's a defensive minded coach. I just don't see Ahmad Hardy ran for 300 yards against Mississippi State this past Saturday and had 3 tutties. You know what Ahmad Hardy's not going to do against Oklahoma? He's not going to run for 300 yards.
Will he even get to 100?
If he does, then that's well earned
Yeah.
against this Oklahoma. He'll have to break long
He'll
runs.
probably do it
But
on 35 carries.
probably, yeah. This is a really bad matchup for Mizzou. As far as matchups on the field are concerned, I just don't think that Mizzou is going to be able to. Matt Zollers is going to have success throwing the football enough to keep them in this game. Mizzou's defense is very solid, but there's that stat that got thrown around everywhere this past week where Drinkwitz is like 0-15 since he's joined Mizzou against SEC opponents with winning records, winning conference records. Well, Oklahoma's obviously going to fall in that category. I know that's winning the game, not against the spread. But dude, again, I just think this Oklahoma team is. I think they're going to put it on. I think they're going to put it on Mizzou. I think they win this game by 2 touchdowns plus. I'm going to get it at 9.5 right now before it goes up any further. I saw DraftKings and FanDuel have it at 9.5. So I'm going to take Oklahoma minus 9.5 at home in a bad matchup for Mizzou.
Okay. This is a rarity, folks. I'm not sure it's ever happened before. That Lance has got an early bet, and I have nothing. I got nothing right now. I got to take a step back after this third weekend in a row where it has just not been pretty on the betting board. So we're going to refocus. We'll be back. Obviously, like I said, Tuesday night live for the CFP ranking show. Join us on YouTube. Join us on X for that. And then we'll be back later on in the week for our week 13 preview show. We talk about USC, Oregon. We're going to find some other games to talk about. I know it's the week that the SEC plays the FCS teams, and it's just kind of a little bit of a slower week there, but we'll find something to talk about. You guarantee that. So for Lance Barton, I'm Tyler Nohe. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.